Snow fell endlessly across the dead world of Elira 9. The sky was black and full of storms. The wind screamed between broken metal towers, twisting through the ruins like a living thing. Once this colony had been full of life. Now it was only ice, dust, and ghosts. Through that storm walked a small figure. A woman wrapped in torn fabric, her arms tight around a tiny bundle. Her name was Seren. She was not human. Her skin had a soft blue glow under the frozen moonlight, and faint silver lines moved beneath her skin like rivers of light. Her eyes were wide and full of fear, but she kept walking. Because inside that bundle was her child. The child gave a weak cry. The sound was so small that it almost disappeared in the wind. Seren pulled the cloth tighter around him and whispered, "Shh, little one. Just a little more." Her breath came out as white mist. Each step sank deep into the snow. Her boots were cracked, her hands were shaking, and her energy suit had stopped working hours ago. The small screen on her wrist flickered and died. The temperature was dropping below what her body could survive. She had been running for 2 days since her ship crashed. The rest of her people, soldiers, engineers, civilians, all gone. Some had burned, others had frozen. Only she and her child had made it out. She looked up at the dark sky. No lights, no ships, no help. Just the endless cold. She found the remains of a human outpost half buried in ice, a metal dome cracked open by time. The sight made her heart race. Her people had always feared humans. They called them dangerous, selfish, and full of war. But now even an empty human base felt like a miracle. She stumbled inside. The wind stopped screaming for a moment. The silence hurt her ears. Broken equipment lay everywhere. Rusted tables, shattered screens, and the bones of old machines. She found a corner where the wall blocked the wind. The temperature inside was still deathly cold, but at least it was still air. Her child was crying softly. His tiny fingers reached out for her face. Serene smiled weakly and pressed her forehead to his. "Don't cry, my star. Mama's here. I'll keep you safe," her voice cracked. She could not feel her own hands anymore. She looked around. Nothing she could burn, nothing she could eat. Her body was shaking badly now. The baby's face was pale, his glowing skin dimming. She knew what that meant. They were dying. Serene unwrapped the last thing she had, a thermal cloth from her survival pack. It was made to keep heat for a few hours. She placed her child inside it, tight and warm, and kissed his forehead. "If someone finds you, if someone comes, you will live." She smiled through tears. Her voice was soft, but her words were strong. "You are the last light of our people. You must not fade." The baby made a small sound like a sigh. Seren lay down beside him. Her body curled around him, trying to block the cold. Her eyes grew heavy. She looked once more at the ceiling, a broken metal roof full of holes. Through one gap she could see a single star still shining. "Let this be my grave," she whispered. "Let him live." The wind began to scream again. The cold bit through her last bit of strength. Her heartbeat slowed. Her vision dimmed, everything turned white. Silence. Then, warmth. It started as a small, impossible feeling, like sunlight on her face. Seren frowned in confusion. Warmth couldn't exist here. She was supposed to be dead. She tried to open her eyes. At first, everything was blurry, a blur of light and sound. She heard something. A voice, a deep human voice. "Easy now. You're safe. Just breathe." Her eyes snapped open. She gasped. A man was kneeling beside her, a human. His face was rough, covered in frost and dirt, but his eyes were steady and kind. He wore an old military coat patched many times. A small fire burned beside them, its light painting his face gold. Seren tried to move, but her body was too weak. The man gently pressed her shoulder. "Don't move. You were nearly frozen solid," she blinked, trying to understand. "Her child?" She turned her head sharply. There, beside the fire, and her baby lay wrapped in the thermal cloth, small chest rising and falling. Still alive. Tears filled her eyes instantly. "My baby," she whispered. The man gave a small smile. "He's strong, just like his mother." Seren couldn't speak. Her throat burned from the cold. The man handed her a small cup. Steam rose from it, hot liquid. "Drink this," he said. "It'll help you warm up." She looked at it carefully. Her people were taught never to trust humans, but this one had saved her life. Her shaking hand reached out. She drank. It was bitter, but the heat spread through her chest like a miracle. Who are you?" she managed to ask. He looked into the fire for a moment before answering. "Name's Hale. Commander Hale. Used to serve in the Terran Guard before everything went to hell." Serene frowned. She had heard that name before. The Terran Guard, the human soldiers who once fought across the stars. Why help me?" Hale's eyes softened. "Because you were dying. And I'm tired of watching people die." He leaned back, feeding another piece of metal into the fire to keep it alive. Outside, the wind howled again, making the metal walls shake. But inside there was light and life. Hours passed. The fire crackled softly. Serene held her baby close, feeling him warm against her chest. Her strength was slowly returning. Hale moved around the room, checking his equipment. He had set up a small generator, a heat lamp, and a radar scanner. Saren watched him quietly. He worked with calm hands, experienced, careful. A man who had survived many winters like this. Finally, she asked, "How did you find us?" He didn't look up. "I was scavenging the old outposts, looking for parts, maybe some old rations. Saw a weak heat signal from this place. Thought it was another broken machine. Turns out it was you." He turned to face her. "Lucky I came when I did. 10 more minutes and you both would have been gone." Serene lowered her eyes. I didn't think anyone would come." "Most don't," he said quietly. A long silence followed. Only the sound of the fire filled the room. Seren looked at him again. His face had scars. His hands were rough and burned. His coat carried patches from many battles. This man had seen war, death, and loss. And yet, he had chosen to save her. She wanted to thank him, but her throat ached. So instead she whispered softly, "My name is Seren." He nodded once. "Nice to meet you, Seren." For a moment there was almost peace. But then the radar beeped. A sharp sound cut through the room. Hale walked to the small screen and frowned. "Damn, what is it?" Seren asked. "Movement. East Ridge. Could be scavengers. Could be worse." He picked up his rifle and checked the power cell. Seren's body tensed. "They will kill us." Hale didn't answer at first. He looked at her, at the fear in her eyes, at the child sleeping in her arm. And something inside him changed. "Not while I'm breathing," he said firmly. He moved to the door, peering into the storm. Red lights blinked faintly in the distance. Not stars, but drone eyes moving closer. Seren whispered, "You'll die if you fight them." Hale gave a small half-smile. "Then I'll die warm, not cold like this world." He opened the door. The wind slammed against him. Snow whipped around his body as he stepped out, disappearing into the storm. Seren clutched her baby tightly, heart pounding. She could hear faint plasma shots outside, bursts of light flashing through the cracks of the metal wall. Each one made her flinch. Minutes felt like hours. The fire flickered low. She prayed, not to gods, but to the stars, and that the man who saved them would come back. Then the noise stopped. Silence again. The door creaked open. Through the white fog, a shadow appeared, limping, slow but alive. Hale stumbled inside, smoke rising from his coat. His face was pale, but he was still standing. "All clear," he said weakly. "Drones are down." Saren ran to him, helping him sit near the fire. She could see the burns on his arm, the blood on his sleeve. "You're hurt." He gave a tired smile. "Nothing new." She tore a piece of her cloth and pressed it to his wound. The blue light from her skin spread through the fabric, sealing the burn slightly. Hale looked at it with surprise. "That's some trick." "It's part of us," Seren whispered. "We can heal others." "A little." Hale leaned back, watching the fire again. "Guess we make a good team then. You heal, I shoot." Despite everything, Seren smiled. For the first time since her ship crashed, she felt something she thought was gone forever. Hope. Outside, the storm continued to rage. But inside that ruined outpost, 3 lives shared the same warmth. 1 human, 1 alien woman, and her child. And none of them knew that the night was only the beginning. The storm outside never stopped. Wind slammed against the metal walls of the outpost again and again, like a wild animal trying to break in. Inside, the small fire still burned, weak but alive. Its orange light danced across 2 faces, Seren and Hale. Seren sat quietly beside her sleeping child. The baby's soft breathing mixed with the crackle of fire. She had wrapped him tight in the same thermal cloth, checking every few minutes to make sure he was still warm. Across the fire, Hale was cleaning his weapon. He had patched the burn on his arm himself. The skin was rough and blackened, but he didn't complain. His eyes stayed on the scanner. "They'll come again," he said finally, his voice calm but heavy. Seren looked up. "Those red lights?" "Yeah, scavenger drones first. People follow later. They smell heat like wolves smell blood." A chill went through her body even though she sat close to the fire. "Then we have to leave." Hale shook his head slowly. "Not yet. The storm's too thick. You and the kid wouldn't last 10 minutes out there." "And you?" He gave a small smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I've lasted worse." Hours passed. Hale moved around the room, checking his old generator and repairing broken cables with quick, expert hands. Seren watched him silently. The human's strength surprised her. He moved with purpose, not panic, not fear. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft. "You live here alone?" "Yeah, about 2 years now, I think." He paused, then added quietly, "Lost my team when the mines collapsed. Been surviving off what's left." Seren frowned. "No one came for you?" "No one left to come," he said, silence again. The fire popped. Sparks floated up like little stars and died in the cold air. Seren looked down at her baby, tracing her finger along his cheek. "My people said humans are cruel," she whispered. Hale laughed once, a short, dry sound. "Some are. So are some of yours, I bet." She looked at him. "You risked your life for me, why?" He thought for a moment, then said simply, "Because I could." It was such a small answer, but it hit her heart like a hammer. That night, the storm grew louder. Metal groaned around them, and somewhere in the dark distance, machines howled. Seren couldn't sleep. Her mind kept replaying the flashes of battle, the scavengers' drones, their red lights, Hale walking out into the storm to fight them. She turned toward the fire. Hale sat awake, cleaning his rifle again. His face looked tired but sharp, like someone who had seen too much and stopped expecting peace. "You don't sleep?" she asked. "I try not to. Dreams make too much noise." Seren didn't understand, but she stayed quiet. The firelight reflected off his eyes, warm brown mixed with the orange glow. "My people lost everything," she said after a while. "Our ships, our cities, all gone. We thought humans were monsters." "Maybe we were," he replied, "but monsters get tired too." He leaned back against the cold wall, his weapon resting beside him. "Tomorrow we move. There's another outpost, 30 kilometers east. Has food, real heat, maybe even a signal beacon." Seren nodded. "We can go when the storm stops." "If it ever does," he muttered. By morning, the wind had calmed. Gray light crept in through cracks in the roof. Snow still fell, but slower now, like ash drifting down after a fire. Hale packed quickly. Rations, a battery cell, 2 oxygen tanks, his rifle. He gave Seren a smaller pack with blankets and a small energy bar. "Eat that slowly," he said. "It's old, but it'll keep you up." Seren bit into it carefully. The taste was bitter and metallic, but it felt like life. Her baby stirred, small fingers opening and closing. Hale looked at the child and smiled faintly. "What's his name?" "Leo," she said. "It means light in my language. Good name. We could use some light out there." They stepped out of the outpost together. The world was white. Endless snow, broken towers, frozen rivers of steel. The air burned their throats. Hale led the way, walking carefully, checking his scanner every few minutes. Seren followed, her child held close. Every sound made her jump, the crunch of snow, the echo of metal shifting in the wind. After an hour, Hale stopped. "Something's wrong," he said quietly. He pointed toward a ridge in the distance. Black shapes moved slowly against the snow, 6 of them walking on mechanical legs. "Scavenger patrol," he whispered. "They found our tracks." He turned to Seren. "We can't fight them head on." "Come on!" They ran, slipping between tall, half-broken towers. The sound of engines grew louder behind them. Hale guided her into a tunnel half buried in ice. Inside was darkness. He turned on a small light from his helmet. The beam cut through the dark, showing old pipes, frozen cables, and strange markings on the walls. "Old power tunnel," he said. "Might connect to the east outpost." Seren's voice trembled. "Will they follow?" "If they find the entrance, yes. But we've got a head start." The tunnel stretched for miles. Their footsteps echoed. The baby made small noises, tired but calm. Seren's arms ached from holding him, but she didn't complain. Hale noticed anyway.
"Here," he said, adjusting his coat.
"Let me carry him for a bit." Seren hesitated. You don't have to. I know. I want to. She finally handed the child to him. Hale held the baby carefully as if afraid he might break. The child opened his tiny eyes, glowing faint blue, and stared at the human's face. Something gentle passed between them, something beyond language. He likes you, Seren whispered. Hale smiled. First time anyone said that to me in years. After another hour, they reached a large door sealed with ice. Hale hit it with his shoulder again and again until it finally cracked open. Warm air blew out, faint but real. They stepped inside. It was another human outpost, smaller but intact. Emergency lights still glowed red. A large generator hummed weakly. We made it, Hale said, setting the baby down carefully. He moved to the control panel, pressing buttons, checking power levels. Backup cell's still good. I can restart the heat in a few minutes. Seren looked around in wonder. There were metal beds, food boxes, even a water recycler. For the first time in days, she felt safe. But that feeling didn't last long. The radar on the control panel started to beep. Hale's face darkened. They found us. On the small screen, red dots moved closer, many of them. Not just drones this time. Human signals, scavengers. We can hide, Seren said quickly. Won't help. They'll burn the place down. He grabbed his rifle and started checking ammo. Serene stepped in front of him. You can't fight them all. I don't plan to. I just need to slow them down so you can run. She shook her head violently. No, you saved us once. I won't let you die for us now. He looked at her, surprised by the strength in her voice. You have a child, Seren, that's reason enough. And you? Don't you have a reason to live? Hale paused. His eyes softened. Maybe I lost it a long time ago. The sound of engines filled the air. The outpost walls shook. Through the crack of the door, Serene saw shadows moving, scavengers in black suits carrying weapons and torches. Hale crouched near the entrance, aiming his rifle. When I fire, you take the back tunnel. Head north till you see the ridge light. Don't stop for anything. Seren grabbed his arm. You'll die! He smiled faintly. Then at least I'll die for something good. Before she could say another word, the first explosion hit. The door burst open, snow and smoke pouring in. Hale fired, bright plasma bolts lighting up the room. The scavengers screamed, scattering. Seren turned and ran toward the back tunnel, clutching her child tight. Behind her, she heard Hale shouting orders to himself, firing again, the sound of metal hitting the ground. Tears streamed down her face. Please live, she whispered again and again. The tunnel led her out onto a frozen valley. The wind bit her face, but she kept running. Each step felt like fire in her lungs. Behind her, the sky glowed red, the outpost burning. She wanted to go back. Every part of her wanted to turn around, but she remembered his voice. Don't stop for anything. Hours later, when the explosions had stopped, she turned. The valley was silent again. Only smoke rose in the distance. Her knees gave way. She fell into the snow, holding her child close. He saved us again, she whispered, voice breaking. Why would a human do that? The baby stirred, reaching his hand toward the rising sun. Seren looked at him and then at the distant smoke. Because maybe monsters still have hearts. She pressed her forehead against the child's and cried quietly, her tears freezing before they could fall. Far away, unseen in the distance, a figure limped through the smoke. Hale burned but alive. His breath came in sharp bursts and blood dripped from his arm. But he was walking. He looked toward the valley where Seren had gone and smiled faintly. Told you I'd find warmth, he whispered. He began to follow her tracks in the snow. The sun rose weakly over the frozen world of Elira 9. It wasn't a warm sun. Its light was pale and distant like a candle burning in a room full of ghosts. But for Seren, that light was enough. She sat in the snow, her child in her arms, staring at the black smoke in the distance. That was where the outpost had been, where Hale had fought alone so she and her baby could escape. Her lips were blue. Her hands were trembling. But she stayed there, waiting. You said you'd find warmth, she whispered into the cold wind. Don't break your promise now. Hours passed. The smoke slowly faded. The wind grew quiet. Then, from far away, she saw something move, a shadow walking slowly through the snow. Her heart stopped for a moment. Then it started beating again, fast, wild, alive. Hale, she breathed. The figure stumbled closer, one step at a time. His coat was torn, his arm covered in blood, his face pale. But his eyes were still open. still burning with that same fire. He fell to his knees just a few meters from her. Serene ran to him. "You're alive," she cried. Hale gave a weak smile. "Barely. You didn't run far enough." "I couldn't," she said. "I had to see you again." He looked at the baby who stared back at him with glowing eyes. "Guess the little one's tougher than both of us," he said softly. They moved to a shallow cave nearby, a small place hidden under the rocks. Seren laid Hale down carefully. His body was shaking from blood loss and cold. His breath was shallow. "Hold on," she said quickly. "You saved me twice. Now I save you." She tore off a piece of her clothing and pressed it to his wound. Blood soaked through instantly. Hale winced but didn't speak. His eyes stayed on her, calm and tired. "You should take the kid and go," he murmured. "I'm done for." "Don't say that," she whispered. "Don't you dare!" She placed her glowing hands over his chest. A soft blue light spread under her palms. The air filled with a faint hum. Hale felt warmth seeping through his body. Slow, deep, almost like sunlight reaching into his bones. He gasped. What is this?" "It's our gift," she said quietly. "We call it the breath of stars. It heals, but it costs strength." Her face grew pale as she poured her energy into him. Her hands trembled, her light flickering. Hale tried to stop her. "You'll kill yourself." "Then I'll die warm," she said softly, repeating his own words. The glow grew brighter, filling the small cave like a sunrise. For a moment Hale saw flashes of her world, her people, her child's birth, the fire that destroyed her city. He felt her pain, her loneliness, and her hope all at once. Then the light faded. Silence returned. Seren fell forward, weak. Hale caught her before she hit the ground. Her eyes fluttered open and she smiled faintly. "See, warmth always wins," she whispered. He held her close, pressing his forehead to hers. "You crazy alien," he muttered. "You saved me." "You started it," she replied, barely audible. For the next few days Hale stayed inside the cave, recovering. Seren's healing power had saved him, but she had drained herself deeply. She slept most of the time, her child resting against her chest. Hale watched over them, feeding the fire with whatever he could find. Pieces of old armor, broken pipes, even his own gear. The storm outside slowly cleared. For the first time since he had arrived on Elira 9, Hale saw a real sunrise. Not the dull gray light he was used to, but a golden beam that broke through the clouds and touched the ice like fire. He stepped out and looked at it. The snow glowed orange. The air shimmered. The world, dead for so long, looked alive again. Seren woke and came to stand beside him, holding her child. Her pale blue skin shimmered in the light. The child reached out toward the sun, tiny fingers catching the warmth. "Beautiful," she whispered. "Yeah," Hale said. "Almost doesn't feel real." They stood there for a long time in silence. Two survivors from two broken worlds watching a new day rise. Later, Hale worked on repairing a small signal beacon he had salvaged from the outpost. It was old and cracked, but it still had a working transmitter. "If I can fix this," he said, "we might call a rescue ship." "And if humans come?" Seren asked quietly. "We'll tell them the truth." "They'll kill me," she said. Hale looked at her, his eyes steady. "Not while I'm breathing." She smiled faintly. "You always say that." "And I always mean it." He connected the last wire. The beacon blinked once, weak, then steady. A soft pulse spread across the frozen valley, rising into the sky. "It's working," he said. "Then maybe," Seren whispered, "someone will find us." That night they sat around a new fire, sharing the last ration Hale had left. The baby, Leo, slept between them, tiny hands curled near his glowing face. Hale looked at him for a long time. "He's different," he said. "Half light, half life. A symbol of something better." Seren nodded. "He will grow knowing humans and my kind are not enemies. He will know kindness." Hale smiled sadly. "Kindness doesn't win wars." "But it wins hearts," she said softly. "And that is harder." For a long moment they just listened to the wind outside. Then far away a sound echoed, and deep and mechanical. "A ship." Hale jumped to his feet. "It's them." Someone heard the signal. They ran outside. In the distant sky a light moved, small but bright, cutting through the clouds. It grew larger, closer. A rescue craft. Hale waved a flare into the air. "Over here," he shouted. The ship landed a few hundred meters away, snow flying everywhere. The hatch opened. 3 humans stepped out in white survival suits. One of them raised a hand in surprise. "Commander Hale? You're alive." "Not for long if you don't get us inside," he shouted back. They ran toward the ship, but one of the soldiers stopped when he saw Seren and her child. "What the hell is that?" he said, lifting his weapon. Hale stepped in front of her instantly. "She's with me. She saved my life." "Sir, she's alien." "So am I to her," Hale snapped. "You shoot her and you'll answer to me." There was silence. The soldier lowered his gun slowly. They boarded the ship. Warm air filled the cabin. For the first time in weeks, Seren felt real heat, not from fire but from life. Her child stirred, blinking at the lights. Hale sat beside her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. As the ship lifted off, Elira 9 shrank beneath them, a white desert fading into shadow. Seren looked down through the window. "That world tried to kill us," she whispered. "And failed," Hale said. He looked at her, then at the child sleeping between them. "You know," he said quietly, "you could come with us. Back to human space. You don't have to be alone." Serene smiled, tired but peaceful. "And your people? Will they accept me?" Hale looked out at the stars. "Maybe not today, but they will someday. You'll show them what real strength looks like." She placed her hand over his. "No, Hale, we will." Days passed as the ship traveled through the dark. Hale and Seren talked for hours and about their worlds, their families, their fears. He told her stories about Earth's oceans, about rain, about forest full of green life. She told him about her home's twin moons and how her people once sang to the stars. Each night, when she fell asleep beside her child, Hale would watch them and feel something strange and something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. When they finally reached the main human station, there was tension. The officers didn't know what to do with an alien survivor. But Hale stood firm. He told them everything. How she saved him, how she risked her life, how her healing light had stopped him from dying. The commander of the station listened quietly. Then he looked at Seren, at the child in her arms, and said, "If what he says is true, then maybe it's time we stop calling them enemies." And just like that, something began to change. Weeks later, Hale stood at the observation window of the station, looking out at the stars. Seren joined him, her child sleeping peacefully in her arms. "He's growing stronger," she said. "So are you," Hale replied. "So are we," she corrected. They stood together in silence. Outside, the stars shone bright and endless. Seren turned to him and smiled. "You know what I realized, Hale?" "What?" "Warmth isn't just fire. It's not just heat, it's someone who stays, someone who doesn't walk away." Hale looked at her for a long moment. Then he said quietly, "Then I guess we both found it." The stars reflected in their eyes, human brown and alien blue, glowing together like dawn and night, touching at the horizon. The end.